My name is Linda Hanover, and it is the 21st of June, 2011. I'm interviewing Lucille Bradley at her home in Conroe today. This video is sponsored by the Heritage Museum of Montgomery County. Lucille, were you born in Montgomery County?
No, I was not born in Montgomery County. I was born in Maynard, Texas, out in the country.
Out in the country. What county was it? Do you remember?
San Jacinto
San
County.
Jacinto. Okay. Okay. And so when did you arrive in Conroe?
Well, I was 8 years old when we came to Conroe. My mother moved here. And of course, she and my daddy had kind of went apart. And of course, we moved here to Conroe because she had an older son here.
And what was he doing here?
The older son? Well, he was working at the sawmill. They had a sawmill here then. And he was working at the sawmill. And he had gotten married.
So you came to be with him?
Yes.
And so where did you live when you first came?
Well, when we first came, we lived in the sawmill quarters. They had houses built for all of the people who were working at the sawmill. And because my brother was married and living and was working at the sawmill, then he was able to get a house for my mother.
Great. And so how long were you living in that house?
Well, not very long, because I started living over at Conroe College in the dormitory when I was around 10 years old.
And so that's where you were going to school?
Yeah, I was going to school over there. I started school over there when I was in the 3rd grade. Modesta Hicks and I.
And that was your friend?
That was my friend. We were just like sisters.
And you told me something about her father that was interesting.
Yeah, her father was the first black mail carrier in Conroe. And he carried the mail in a wheelbarrow.
Now that's history. That's history. Tell us about Conroe College. At that time, it wasn't called Conroe College.
Yes, it was really named Conroe Normal and Industrial College. But I think we just started calling Conroe College for short. Well, they had many students over there then. It went through high school. And
all the way through high school?
Yeah, all the way through high school. And they had young people, teenagers and all, that came from different parts of the state and went to school over there. The girls had a dormitory. They lived in their dormitory. The boys had a dormitory. They had a cafeteria for everybody to come and eat. And we had a well. We had to go to the well and draw water. And you had certain times to go. The girls had a certain time to go, and the boys had a certain time to go. It was interesting.
No running water.
And, of course, wherever we went in groups. If the girls had to go shopping, we would be a group of girls that was going shopping, and we had a chaperone to take us. And we were walking. We didn't have cars. We didn't have, of course, the president had a car. But students didn't have a car. Everywhere they went, they had to walk.
They had to walk. No buses.
No buses. No buses. Mm-mm.
Were the roads all dirt then, or
they were dirt?
Paved? They were dirt.
And
were you close enough to walk to town? Was the college close enough to walk to wherever you were going shopping?
Yeah, we walked. We walked to town, and we always went in groups of twos. And when we went to church, we went out to church every Sunday. And we went in groups of twos. And of course, around 75 or 100 students, we'd always go to church on Sundays.
Now, was the church on campus?
No, we would have Sunday school on the campus. And that was in the chapel. We call it the chapel. And we had Sunday school, and after Sunday school, then we went to church. But we went to church in town. And we lined up in couples, and the girls wore black skirts and white midi blouses. Boys wore black suits. And wherever we were going to church, we had chaperones with us. and we would walk to that church.
And those were your school uniforms
Yeah.
as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you wore to school?
Yeah.
Did you say the teachers also had a dorm?
Well, the teachers had buildings.
Buildings.
They were little, but the persons who were the chaperones, they always stayed in the dormitory that they were chaperoned. For instance, if they were chaperoning girls, we had certain supervisors, to be in the building with the girls. Same
Right.
thing with the boys.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they kept you on very well
Oh my goodness.
controlled.
You were really under control.
And so you were then there and lived in the dorm all through elementary school
Well, yes.
and then through high school.
Yeah, I finished high school at Conroe College. I didn't have, really, I didn't have I did have very little public school because I did go to public school, I think, I didn't go a whole year, but Professor Turner, was it Turner? No, Professor Young was the principal. And I think I went about a half a year then at public school.
At public school.
And after then, I started going to Conroe College. I didn't go to public school anymore.
At all.
Mm-mm.
Now, what school was that? Was it one here in Conroe?
Yes,
it
it was
one
here.
Of the...
It was here in Conroe. Mm-hmm. And what was it? I think the name of the school was Mitty J. Camel School then. And
Okay.
the person that I went there under, I think he was Professor Young, an old man. He was the principal.
The principal.
Mhm.
Now, how was Conroe College supported? Did you have to pay to go there, or?
Well, I didn't have to pay because it was further down the road. But Conroe College itself was supported by churches and associations and conventions, black churches, associations, and conventions.
I see. So it was really a Christian school.
That's good, a Christian school.
Exactly. And you were saying that lots of people came from all over to study the ministry.
Yeah, yeah.
at Conroe.
They, we had a theologian there that was out of this world. It was just really good, and that's the reason why Conroe College had so many ministers to come, because he was excellent. He had gone to Chicago, some school up in Chicago that was a theological school, and he had an excellent name, Conroe College did, for Christianity, and that's why a lot of people came.
That's the history of Conroe College, I think, is good and interesting, because there is still a building there, but for many years we don't know how long, do we? We don't know when it started, but it had been going for some time when you.
Oh, when I started,
Got
yeah,
there.
I started then in third grade.
In 33.
Oh, in third grade.
Oh, third grade.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Maudissa Smith and we started.
What year was that, Lucille?
I don't know what year it was.
She doesn't remember.
I was
what
about.
year.
I was in the third grade when I started over there.
But
I don't.
we can subtract, because Lucille was born November 16th,
Yeah.
1913.
That's right.
Right, and so she was 8.
Yeah.
And it was
yeah.
already going then. So
Oh yeah. The school-
1920 or so, huh?
Yeah, school had been going over there for a long time at Conroe College.
and so it was certainly a big part of Conroe
Yes,
at that
it
time.
was. It was.
And you were also saying that it was one of the first, if not the only, Negro college
Yeah, here.
in Texas.
Mhm. I don't know about in Texas, but I know it was the only Negro college that many Negroes went to and came to.
And came from all over
Yeah.
the United States.
Mhm.
So that is interesting. And so growing up on the Conroe College campus was probably a nice experience for you, because you were somewhat protected from outside?
Yeah, we were protected, but a lot of times you wanted to do things on your own when you got in your teenagers.
Oh yeah, always.
And you couldn't do it.
And you couldn't.
You couldn't even go down and draw a bucket of water as a teenager unless you had somebody. But you had to go at the time they told you to go. They had time set for the girls to go to the well. They had a time set for the boys to go to the well, and you could not go together. If you did, you were punished.
Had to go separately to the well. So after you left Conroe College, tell us where you went from Conroe College, because you...
Well, I finished high school at Conroe College. Then I went to Guadalupe College. Guadalupe College is in Seguin, close to San Antonio. I got a chance to go because they thought I could sing. Because my parents,
you could sing.
the parents couldn't, pay. We didn't have money to pay
Right.
for me going through. So some other friends who were in our association, they went also because they could sing. And so I went to Guadalupe College, and that's how I got to go there.
To study music.
Yeah, to study music and to sing. They helped pay my way in school, in college. 'Cause I didn't,
So you were really on a scholarship,
Yeah.
a music scholarship.
yeah, right.
That's early on scholarships. Aren't they wonderful?
They really are.
And you might want to tell us about the Johnsons and how the role they played in
Well,
your life in the college.
What happened, I had a brother. Well, I had two brothers, but this is my baby brother. He and my mother passed, my real mother passed away when I was 13. But I was already living in the dormitory over at Conroe College. And then the Johnsons wanted to adopt both of us. And they talked to my older brother and sisters about it. And so at first they just didn't agree. But later they
Agreed.
by telling them the advantages that we would have with them and the disadvantages we would have staying with them, because they both had to work and all, and we were small children. But so they finally agreed that we would stay with them. So my brother, my baby brother Frank, there's his picture up there. He was adopted. I was not adopted. I did not want to be adopted because I had to marry and all that. Too many names.
Too many names.
And so that's the way we became a part of their family. And we didn't, well, at that time, Dr. Johnson, who was, and his wife, who was wanting to adopt us, he was president of Conroe College. And so
Yes.
they just took me as their foster child and adopted my brother. So
That was a
that's how-
wonderful thing, yes. And then they were also able to help you go
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Guadalupe.
So they sent opened a way for me to go to Guadalupe.
Right. And then after Guadalupe was just a junior college,
Junior
right?
college.
And then after junior college, and you sang there in the
Yeah,
choir.
I sang in
and,
the choir and traveled with the choir, and we went various places because that's one of the ways that Guadalupe College was supported by Christian Christian churches and conventions and things. It's the same way Conroe College was.
I see.
And so we traveled. We'd go away on weekends and sing, and we'd go fishing on Saturdays. I never did fish, so I'd read a book.
Be under a shade tree reading a book, huh?
I never did like fishing, but we had a lot of fun. One incident happened at the college, though, that really shook us all and hurt us all. The girls' dormitory burned.
Oh.
We had been
Wow.
away singing that weekend, and we came in on a Sunday night from someplace, I don't remember where we came from. But when we went upstairs and went to bed and everything, around 3 o'clock in the morning, the dormitory, we woke up and the dormitory was on fire. And we were on the third floor, my roommate and I. And I called her. Well, when we woke up, what really woke us up was people running up and down the hall. And they were trying to get out of the building. And so that woke me up. And then I raised the shade and looked out the window, and there the dormitory was on fire. So I called my roommate. I called a roommate. We called each other roommate. And I said, "This building is on fire, roommate." Oh, she said, "Oh," and she jumped up out of the bed. And we just had to break our way down because we were on the third floor, and they had eat from one floor to the other was locked.
You didn't have a fire escape of any kind? Wow.
And so we had to break our way down until we got to the first floor. The library was on the first floor. And then one girl, she was fat, and you know how they have the heavy doors at the entrance.
Yes.
So this girl, we broke the window, the panes out of the door. I got a scar
from doing that.
And this girl, when we broke the panes out, she got herself out some kind of way, and she pulled the sticks that was holding the glass and pulled us out.
Out the window.
And then we had to go to the boys' dormitory and wake them up.
Did everybody get out?
Yes, everybody got out safely. We were all concerned about
goodness.
the musician, the person who was over the music, because she was crippled.
Oh.
And we all got out and we didn't see her, and we started crying and hollering for her, you know.
Oh.
And
But she had gotten out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was
So
wonderful.
that was
Well, that is a vivid memory.
But let me tell you one thing. We didn't save anything. We didn't bring any clothes or anything out. But the very next day when they heard about over the town in Seguin and all in San Antonio, they just brought trucks of clothes and shoes over to Guadalupe College for the students.
That's wonderful.
And it was something that we really were thankful for.
I guess that's great. Now, after you left Guadalupe, where did you get your teaching degree?
At Texas Southern University.
So that was when you decided you were going to go into teaching. And then what brought you back to Conroe?
Well, Mother and Papa was still here. And
So you,
yeah, that's what brought me back.
And where did you meet your husband?
Met him here in Conroe. But I tell you what had happened. He had finished Wiley College, and he was called to be a minister. And he went to Guadalupe College because they taught theology there. When he got to theology college, Guadalupe went to Guadalupe College. At Guadalupe, he found out that their theological department was taught there a year, and he left and came to Conroe to study theology. And when he came to Conroe to study theology, that's where I met him. And he said he heard me singing, and he said the Lord told him, "There goes your wife." I said, "Well, it was strange you didn't tell me anything." But we got married.
But it was meant to be. And so how long were you married?
Oh, we were married 39 years.
39 years. Long time. And did you have any children?
No, we didn't have any children of our own. And I reared my nephew, Joe.
You have a picture of him back there, don't you? Absolutely.
And we reared him as our son. He went to China and worked there 3 years because he worked on the ship. Went to college 1 year, came back, said, "Auntie, I want to go work on the ship."
See the world.
So he did. He worked on the ship and went to China 3 years, worked there. Came back after the contract went out for the ship. And then he got a job at the airport, working there. worked at night. And on his way home one morning, he went off the road.
Oh.
He was killed.
Was he working at Intercontinental?
Mm-hmm.
One of our questions was, tell us about the doctors and the hospitals here. Did you ever need to
I really
go to a hospital, or?
I didn't need to go to a hospital, but I guess my parents, you know, they used to fix fix a little what you call them? They'd fix little dopes for you, give you quinine. They call it quinine, and when you was sick.
Oh, your home remedies.
Yeah, home remedies. That's what they would always fix for us. I didn't have to go to the doctor because really I wasn't a sickly person.
Now, was First Street the hospital on First Street here then?
No, the hospital was on 105 then, the first hospital I knew about.
Is that right, on 105? So that was.
You know that little
First
shopping
Street.
center over there right across from Blossom Shop?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a hospital over there.
That was the hospital
Long
then.
time.
Okay. Do you remember the Depression, and do you have any memories of the Depression?
I just know that we had to go to stores and get some kind of write-up to get food and all that sort of thing.
Stamps?
Yeah,
Do you
and
remember
all
those
that.
stamps for sugar and
Yeah.
those kind of things? But living at Conroe College, you didn't have to do very much of that because
No.
you ate in the cafeteria.
That's right. The students did.
Uh-huh. So you probably don't have a lot of memories of that.
No.
It's probably a good thing. Tell us about any disasters that occurred in the county or the city during your life that made an impression on you.
Well, the things that happened were kind of bad, and I don't like to remember them.
Don't
I
like
don't like to talk about
to
them.
talk about those things. You mentioned though something I thought was interesting yesterday. You described Conroe back then as kind of a.
It was a town that really people didn't care about. They didn't want to come through Conroe because Conroe, they thought the people were mean here.
Mean.
You know?
You said it was kind
And
of a
they
mean
didn't-
city.
We had a bad name. We really did.
And-
People didn't want to come through here and all, and they did some things that, I really don't like to think about it.
Uh-huh.
But they did some things that.
Made people afraid of.
Yeah, they hung a black man on 75 and left him hanging up there on a tree and all that sort of stuff. But,
I understand why you don't like to think about that. But the good thing was you said now you call Conroe.
Oh, honey, Conroe is a miracle city because people come to Conroe and they live here. They seem to love each other, and it's just a mixture of races, not of just 2 or 3 people, but it's races. That we have the Mexicans,
Exactly.
we have the blacks, the whites, and whoever else. and I mean, we just live as a community. It's not you scared of this person, you scared of that person. For an example, somebody say something to me I don't like, I can just stop and tell you that I don't like that and don't do that anymore, you know.
Right.
But you know, a long time ago, you just couldn't do that because they'd take you off and beat you up.
Exactly. Big difference, right? You've seen a huge difference in your
When did
lifetime.
you notice it changing? Was there any point where you could say, hey, it's kind of changing for the better?
I really don't know that I could name a time, but
Did the integration of the schools make a
the
difference?
integration of schools, it was good. And I think a lot of people thought that integration in Conroe was going to really be difficult.
Mhm.
But when schools integrated, it wasn't bad at all. At least I don't remember it as being bad.
Pretty smooth transition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Sure was.
That's really good. And so, is there anything else you want to tell us about that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with us about your history here, or your thoughts about growing up in Conroe? And
Well, I'm glad that things turned out the way they did and the way they have. Because God doesn't mean for us to be separated as races and as people. He wants his people to live together. Now, when I say live together, I don't mean living in the house together. I don't mean that at all. But I mean that he wants us to be cooperative, to help each other.
Sure.
That's his word. And
Yes.
I think when we do that, I think we are getting closer and closer to living the way God wants us to live. And that he really wants his people to live that way. And you got to have some Christ in you to be able to live that way.
You bet. You bet. What is something you hope we will never forget?
Well, one thing I hope we will never forget, first, is the Lord. And the next thing, the changes that have been made as human beings in our races and all. And I don't want us to forget that. And we must remember that God is the cause of the changes. Because he changed you. He changed him. He changed him. He changed me. He changed ours. That's where our changes have come from God. And whenever we leave God out of our lives, we have ruined our lives.
Absolutely. Are you worried about that happening in today's society?
Well, I tell you what, things are peculiar in our
They are.
society now.
You're right.
But I don't think it'll last like that all the time. I really believe that people, even now, I believe people are seeing the mistakes that they are making, that we are making, and I believe that we will be changed.
That we'll be able to turn it around.
Yes. We can't do it ourselves,
No.
but God can do it for us. And I believe that he's going to do it for
He's
us.
going to do that.
Because there are people who are leaning and depending on God. And I'm one of them.
And it served you well over all these years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
He has served you well. We have so enjoyed your sharing all of this with us, your
Thank
history
you.
with us.
Thank you.
And we hope that you'll have many years to come. You've been in Conroe for 90 years, since you were 8. And so I believe you're considered a native. And we needed to know your history to go down in our archives at the museum.
Well, I thank
So
you so
thank
much.
you so much for sharing with us
And
today.
I thank you so much for selecting me.
Oh, our pleasure.